today we're at the house and home of Billy and Sylvia Widgeon, and we want to thank you, Billy, for taking time with us and sitting down talking a little bit about sports. Let's start, if you will. Kind of tell me your family and so forth, where you grew up at.
Well, my mother was a Garner. She married a Widgeon, then they separated and we moved back to Newport. I guess I was 2 or 3, and so basically I've lived in Newport all my life until went off to school. Family lived on the Loop Road, so just I grew up in town but worked on the farm. Of course, the town wasn't very big, so.
Tell me, when you grew up there, how did you get in sports in Newport?
Well, probably the first thing was Harry Mizell had the little boys basketball team, and that's kind of where we got started. And then we played a little bit of football in his side yard, not too much, thank goodness, because it wasn't very big. But that kind of got us all started, and just about, everybody I grew up with, small town, played baseball or basketball, which is all we had. We never did have football, and unless you liked to hunt, that was about it.
About it.
So.
Now, looking at your high school pictures in Newport, you look like you were tall in there. But how tall were you?
Well, I was only, I think, 6'2", so that was fairly tall back in those days. I think the tallest person we had was Ray McCain. He might have been 6'5" or 6'6", and Sidney Manning was about 6'4" or 5". But you didn't have many 6'10", 6'11" fellas. So I actually played forward and guard.
Now, you graduated in 53?
53.
53. Now, prior to that, did you win any conference championships?
Yeah, it was kind of unusual. When I was a freshman, I was on the team. Roy Dennis and maybe one of them, I can't remember. We were on the team. If the JVs didn't play, we sat on the bench for the varsity games. Then when we all reached the sophomore level, we had one senior, no juniors, all sophomores. So Harold McCabe was the one senior, and the rest of us were sophomores, so we just kind of went from there. And I don't remember what, I know we went to Wilmington and played Beaufort in the Star, I believe it was the Star News tournament. And we ended up playing Beaufort in the finals, and I think we beat them 35-34. I want to say that's right. I had 7, and Harold McCabe had 28. He was a horse. He was a good player. But our junior year, we got beat in the district. And then our senior year, we won it all. So.
Yeah, tell us about that 52-53 state championship team. Who were your teammates?
Okay, I'll try to remember them all now. I'm 73, my memory never has been very good. Sidney Manning played center, real good player. I went to Atlantic Christian, and they wanted him some kind of bad, but it turned out he needed to go to work. So Roy Dennis was one guard. Larry Smith played one guard. They kind of rotated. I played one position, and Lloyd Culpepper was the other forward. Lloyd still lives in Mill Creek. His folks worked on the water, and when he graduated, he worked on the water. And so that was the main group.
Main group.
I think I named 6, didn't I?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you did.
Did I name Larry Smith?
No, not Larry.
Okay, that was Larry and Levy kind of rotated at the guard position.
Okay.
Larry probably started most of the time.
Tell me how it led up. I mean, because winning the state championship, it seems like not only you got to have talent, but you got to have luck and all the stars has got to come together.
Well, we had a little bit of luck, and we didn't have to play the last game, so we'll never know how that would have come out. The team we were supposed to play, St. Stephen's, had played, for some reason, they had played a county tournament game first of the week. they had to play one of the better teams in the tournament. I don't know where they thought they were going to get beat or just didn't know the rules or whatever. But anyway, so they ended up playing 2 state tournament games, and they wouldn't let them play a 4th game that week. So to start with, they were going to play on Monday. Then they decided that wasn't fair because we'd have to spend the weekend. They would be at home. Anyway, to make a long story short, they just had to forfeit.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
but for a high school team, for a little old school, we had some good players.
Good play.
Real good players.
Now, what was some of your key strengths? And you mentioned that you played both 2 positions.
I don't know, really just a little bit of everything. Of course, I wasn't going to hurt anybody on the backboards, but I could do the rest of it.
Mm-hmm.
And really, Roy Dennis was probably bigger than I was, and we kind of rotated position. Back then, you had forwards and guards. You didn't have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 like they go through now. And we pretty much just offense. Everybody rotated around some. We basically played a man-to-man defense. So I may have been playing a guard. I may have been playing a forward. Usually Mr. Benton would say, "Well, you got this one. You got this one. You got this one. You got Widgeon. You got the last one." So I probably ended up guarding the sorriest one. But,
Well, tell me a little bit about Coach Wayne Benton.
he came there. I want to say. I'm not sure. I think he was there my freshman year. Moose Tenney was there early, and he really got all of us started. We played on the JV team, and on a 7th, 8th grade team, whatever you want to call them.
Mm-hmm.
And then when Mr. Benton came in, he carried on from there. But he did a good job with us.
Wayne, you knew Wayne was a great baseball player.
Yeah, he
And,
played in the
Tide Water
summer
League.
league and all, and he. After we graduated, he got drafted. Ended up going, when he came back, he ended up going to Swansboro and then Lewisburg.
So Wayne Benton was drafted in the service?
Yeah. Everybody claims Moorhead did it to get him out of Newport.
Well, there might be some truth to that.
No, probably not.
Of
But
course, Ruby Hall was in charge of the draft, wasn't she, over in Beaufort, so it could have been Beaufort.
yes, if Gurman's coming along, we don't want anybody up there who can coach.
Yeah, it could have been. But you had some good coaches. You mentioned Moose Tenney, and Moose Tenney was I think he went to Atlantic around, or he was in Atlantic around 48, 49.
I'm not sure what it might have been, and then he left and actually got out of coaching, I think, and he just worked down at Swansboro.
Yeah, he got started. He coached the Tidewater League in 48, and part of maybe 47, and then part of 48. And Jack Gardner came over, I think, because of his health. Jack came over to work with him in 48.
Right,
But Moose apparently was a good coach,
yeah.
very good coach from what all.
Of course, what we were able to do, you can't do now. But in the summertime, wintertime, anytime, we could go by the teachers. If Mr. Benton wasn't there, he'd leave the keys on the mantle. We just pick up the keys, go up the gym, get the basketballs out, play all day, all night, lock the place up, carry the keys back. Well, now the place would be torn up and ripped down if you let them do it now. But, so we had some big advantages at that time, being from a small community where everybody knew everybody, and you could pretty much just go.
Yeah.
We'd go out the front door in the summertime early in the mornings, and you had the whole town. You could go to your friends, you walked right on in their houses, they walked in yours, and
No doors locked.
no.
May not have a lock on the door.
I know it.
But now, when you, of course, you graduated from there in '53 from Newport, and then, of course, Atlantic Christian got you to come play with them. You got a scholarship there?
Yeah, Mr. Benton carried me up there. They had, back then you could have workouts. They may still be able to have them in certain schools, but went up, worked out, had a good 2 days of working out, and they offered me a scholarship. I accepted, and we went from there.
Now, can you tell me some of the things you did at Atlantic Christian?
Well, first year I must not have done very much. I told somebody, I said, if I'd have been anywhere else where folks wouldn't look after you, I'd have been out. I went there to summer school. They wanted me to take Spanish because I didn't take a foreign language in high school. So I was working, going to school. I was playing in the North Carolina High School Athletic Association All-Star game near the end of the summer. So they gave me time off. Went up there and played in that. Got ready to come home. The boy from Jacksonville was driving, so I just rode with him to Jacksonville, thumbed into Newport. Got there about in the middle of the night. I don't know, for some reason I just decided, oh heck, I'm flunking that Spanish. I'm just going to stay home. About a week later I got a call. Where in the world are you? So anyway, I got through it. But now, where were we?
Well, you were things that you've done but that was good. I mean, the first year it takes time to transition from homeboy.
Anyway,
to,
by the end of the year, my grade point average was not too good. So summer school again. I was planning on majoring in math, and the math professor, Dr. Dunn, I can thank him. So took summer classes and started getting it all back together class-wise, and got out of there in 4 years. So academically it went all right.
academic. So, what about sports? I mean,
sports? I played basketball. Didn't play baseball. I do have a baseball story, but it'll be a short one.
Mm-hmm.
Then I believe it was my sophomore year. Ed Cloyd, PE teacher. He had played. I think he had played tennis at Davidson, but he wanted to start a tennis team. So my roommate, myself, and 3 or 4 others, we started the tennis team at Atlantic Christian.
Oh, really?
So I played tennis 3 years. But I believe it was my junior year. I told McComas, I said, I'm going to come out for baseball. He said, no, you're not either. Get out on that tennis court. Baseball's not going to do your basketball any good. So that was my baseball. But I played 3 years of tennis and really enjoyed it. Mr. Cloyd was a pretty nice fellow.
Well, I understand that they retired your jersey at Atlantic Christian.
Well, they didn't retire my jersey, but they did put me in the Hall of Fame.
I think
as far as I know, I've only been up there 3 or 4 times since they fixed their room, and they may have, but
they inducted you in the Hall of Fame, yeah. So you must have had some pretty good statistics in basketball.
Well, yeah, fair. My junior, senior year, I got the best athletic award, whatever they called it. And I started all 4 years. 1 year we went to the national finals, managed to beat Evansville, Indiana, which was one of the top seeds, and then got beat by Kentucky Wesleyan or somebody that we should have beat. My sophomore year we won. That was the year we went out. I got the most valuable player in the tournament. So as far as conference awards, that would probably about cover all of that. But
you feel
we had
like
4 good years.
Yeah. Do you feel like that you just got stronger after high school as well? I mean, did you develop into even a more stronger and more capable basketball player at that point?
No, of course you get more experience and you get
mature.
a little stronger. But when I came along, I never lifted a weight. The heaviest weight I lifted was a tobacco stick hanging the back up in a barn or something like that. But heck, nobody knew what a weight. And we didn't have a weight room at Atlantic Christian. Heck, now they got a big old place, just like all of them with weights and running stuff and this, that, and the other. But no, we did plenty of running, but as far as lifting weights, no such thing.
Yeah. You didn't get in golf there at Atlantic Christian.
I took Ed Cloyd's class. It was badminton, golf, I want to say tennis. And that was the first time I'd ever hit a golf ball. And Billy Thomason, that was on the team, his daddy had a driving range between Wilson heading out towards Greenville. And we went out there a couple of times and hit balls. And then I went out with some of them that played one day, and I hit a couple of balls. But as far as playing, I never played any until I got out of school. Started teaching.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Well, when you graduated from Atlantic Christian in 57 or
57.
57, and you started teaching, where did you start teaching at?
Bailey City. About 13 miles from Wilson, 40 miles from Raleigh. Used to be right on 64. 64 or 164, I don't know, whichever one used to go right through all the little towns, and then it would join up with the other 64, whichever.
Yeah.
I never can keep them straight. I think it was 64.
What sports did you coach there?
Coached everything that was coached. Basketball and baseball, girls basketball, JV basketball. That was all we had. It was a small 1A school, a little bit bigger than what Newport was when I went through there.
Now, you had a pretty good record there with the girls basketball team, I understand.
Yeah.
What was
girls. The first year there, the girls were really good. We got beat in the all you had back then. They had a conference tournament. And they didn't have a district tournament or a state tournament for girls at that time. Then the next year we went undefeated, and then we went 4 years without losing a game. And the 5th year, I think we won 5. So we won 107 in a row. But I had girls that went through school and never lost a game.
How about that? So the first year you lost some.
Yeah, we lost. We didn't lose very many. We
But
lost 3 or 4.
Yeah, but the next 4 years you went undefeated,
Mm-hmm.
and you left. No. You're trying to retire, but you couldn't.
No, I always said, I said, well, I practiced those girls about 30 or 40 minutes, and I practiced the boys about 2 hours. Of course, we had some good boys teams too. So. But here again, that's all it was. You had basketball, and that was it. If you didn't play basketball, you just did whatever.
Did you coach baseball there as well?
Yeah.
What kind? Did you have a pretty good team?
Just fair.
Fair.
Yeah.
You left there and come to Moorhead in '64.
Mm-hmm.
64, and then you retired from West Carteret in 90.
91.
91. Mm-hmm. Tell us about some of those seasons. What some of your accomplishments at West Carteret, and actually Moorhead before it became West Carteret, I think.
No, it was all West Carteret.
It was all
I
West
came here the
Carteret.
first year.
First
I had
year?
actually came down and talked to some of the people. Of course, I knew everybody in Newport, and they knew me. But Sylvia and I both came down to Newport. I want to say 1 or 2 years before they were set to consolidate. And we looked around, and I don't know, we were walking across the highway, and 3 or 4 of the students spoke to me. I told Sylvia when we got back, I said, nope, too early. And when everybody's calling it, Billy, 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 I said, no, it's too early. We might as well wait a while. Too soon to come back. So anyway, when they got ready to consolidate, Charles Hill and Gerald Merrill was the ones from Newport that were on the committee. And of course, Mr. Lee was the superintendent, and I talked to them 2 or 3 times. They kept coming up and back. And they wanted me to come. Of course, Mr. Talbot was at Moorhead, and he'd had a great career. So he wanted to coach 1 more year, and I don't blame him. He had some good players coming back, Robert McLean, all that crap. And Newport had 4 coming back. I said, well, I'm glad I'm not going to have this. They had 4 starters, and Moorhead had 4 or 5 starters. But anyway, I said, that's fine with me. I'll coach the JVs and just go up from there. So he did first year, and I did the JVs. And then he retired from the basketball, and he did baseball and AD. Mr. Talbot was great to work with. Mm-hmm. Even after he retired, even after he retired, he'd come back, help. We'd go try to sell ads for football programs. He'd go with me. Of course, he knew them all.
Yeah.
Yeah. He'd go in. They'd say 50. He said, "Oh, come on, how about 100?" They'd give it to him. So my first year, I'm not even sure what where I'd have to get the book. We were probably about 12 and 8, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But we had decent players I told somebody, I said, I can't remember except for maybe the last year I coached that I didn't have 10. I mean, we'd go through a season, I could start 2 different teams, and it wasn't much difference. And I'm trying to remember, but we went to the district several times, and I guess our breakthrough was the year we played Kinston in the finals of our conference tournament, our district tournament, and that 3A we were in was the same tournament. So if you won it, you won the conference tournament and you got to go to the state tournament. And they hadn't lost a game, and we beat them 20 points in the finals. Paul Jones still talks about that. I do too. Because he got my number more than I got his, but we got him at one time.
What year was that? Do you remember?
I don't know.
But it was in.
Who did we have? That was when Tommy was playing. Who else was on?
You went. You won the state championship.
That state championship was in '85.
In '85.
Yeah.
Didn't you win a state championship after that?
No.
Okay.
No.
But you were. I think you were
the
runners
team,
up.
We had a string there about 4 or 5 years that we were just good. In fact, I was thinking about it when I said, well, he'd come over here and interview. I don't know what he's going to want to hear. But anyway, I was thinking we were a point blank putback that we missed from winning a district tournament. We lost to Kinston the year after we beat them, I believe. We missed about an 8-footer or 10-footer, and it went right straight to the best shooter I had on the baseline. He had a 10-footer, and he missed it. So that would have been another trip. But we won 5 or 6 district tournaments. We went to Durham for a state tournament when you had 8 teams come in and you played the whole thing there. We went there, I think, 3 times. The second time we went, I probably had one of my better teams, really. And we'd had about 2-week layoff for snow and this, that, and the other up the country. And we were killing, the first round, we were killing some team. And then you could see us getting tired, and we made 3 or 4 errors, and we threw a ball away at least 3 times when we had somebody wide open for a layup. Anyway, got beat by 2 or 3 points. I said, man, that was sickening. we went back to the motel, and I got in the elevator with one of the coaches that would have had to play us. He said, I'm sorry y'all lost. He said, we sure didn't want to have to play. So anyway, you got to have, like I say, you got to have some luck. And the team, let's see, that was the '85 team. The '84 team was probably as good or better, and they got beat in the district final by a real good team. That one of those games could have gone either way. And then the next year afterwards, we were actually the #1 ranked team in the News and Observer at the end of the year. And we had to play somebody on the road. Anyway, we got beat. So, but we had a string in there where we were mighty good.
Mm-hmm. What were some of your, I mean, of course it's hard to mention them all, but obviously you had some standout performers all over those years.
Oh yeah.
Because you've been coaching, what, about 33, 34?
Well, I was at West 27.
27.
I was at Bailey 7. I coached all 7 years there. And I coached golf every year at West Carteret.
Yeah.
Basketball, let's see, 85, 86, 87. I either quit at the end of the 87 year or 88. I'm not sure which.
Mm-hmm. But you got close to 34 years.
Yeah.
In teaching and coaching.
Yeah, I was coaching. We had a crowd. We went to camp. I don't even remember where we went to camp. Went to High Point, I think, for summer camp. And then we never really had to worry about opening the gym, get people in to play. They would break in to play. They'd go somewhere they were going to get in. And it got to the point and say, well, you need to come in and work. Well, I got to work. I got to pay for my car. So I finally went in. I can't even remember the principal's name. Now, who came in there after Mr. Nelson? Can you remember? It wasn't Stride. Anyway, no big deal. I finally went there. I said, I think I've coached long enough. If you can find somebody, I'm ready to retire. So they found somebody that summer. I said, it's time for me to give it up.
Yeah. Well, when of course, let's get back to the kind of the types of players or some of the key outstanding stories that you
Okay.
can remember about some of the players.
I'm sure I'll forget some.
Well, that's what I mean. That's why we're going to talk about just whatever you can remember about some of the outstanding players or stories that you might remember.
Well, one of them would be, well, I'm trying to remember which team Alex Fox was on. But anyway, that was the team that really, when we broke through, we figured we could beat Kinston, we could beat anybody in the league. And he was a member of the first team we took to the state tournament. He was one of 2 blacks athletes. There were some other blacks that came over when we integrated. Of course, we integrated before anybody in our conference. Of course, they gave us down the country, but they paid for theirs. When they finally did integrate, they paid. But that was the game we decided. Well, Kinston had always pressed us, so we said, well, we'll see how they like to be pressed, and that was the game we beat them 20. Somebody else you probably know, Ray Ball, Dennis here, he played on some of our good teams. Billy Graham, that passed away a few years back with cancer. Trying to think of some of the locals that I can come up with.
Now you mentioned Alex Fox. I mean, we played against him in baseball in the 74 or 77. I think he played on the Newport team. He can hit a ball. He can hit a baseball too.
Yeah.
Good athlete.
So, then we had Harry Lockie and Ira Winberry from up at Newport. That were really good players. We had Hester that went up. He played. Where did he play? He played up in the mountains at one of those prep schools 2 years, and then he went to school in South Carolina, played 2 years, played in the service, tried out for the pros and didn't quite make it. But he was a mighty good player in his time.
When you first started coaching, I mean, and you started working with the boy, what were some of your coaching guides that you look for in players, and what you tried to? Of course, you don't have a lot of choice in high school selecting. You got what you got, and but what do you look for in players?
Well, like I said, you got to take what shows up. Then you try to get the best 12 or 15. Generally, I just try to keep 12. That's about all I could handle. Some years we'd have 15, but most of the time I try to get it down to 12. Then once you get those 12, you just had to kind of look at them. I never had what I'd call a system. I said, well, we're going to run this system. I like to run. That was one thing we'd always try to do, run up and down the floor. But far as, say, well, we're going to run this offense or we're going to run this defense every year, I just usually just tried to, whatever I thought they could do, then we'd go from there. And the more I coached, the simpler I tried to keep it. What do they call it? The KISS theory.
Yes, sir. Keep it simple. What do you think? Basketball changed a lot while you were coaching, and is it different now today?
I think it changed a lot in that it got to be more up and down the floor. So you had more big kids playing. And then, of course, in the last few years, I don't know, I coached but 1 year where they had the three-point line. But it got so the kids, they want to shoot three-pointers or they want to dunk it. They in between shots and the stuff they ought to be working on, they kind of skip over that. But
I guess if you had to look at, like, you started coaching a little, or maybe you did coach, I guess, at Bailey when McQuaid had some of his, or had his winning streak.
they were both almost at the same time.
Yeah, about at the same time.
Yeah.
What was the difference in styles of coaching between you and McQuaid, you think?
Well, it's kind of hard for me to say. And we played against McQuaid when I was in high school.
Yeah, I knew you did.
Yeah. And he was probably a little more of a disciplinarian. Well, I say, no, I don't know as he was either. But I don't know. It's just hard for me to say. Like I said, we played against him, and then he He was at Beaufort. I hope I get this right. When we first started west, and then he left and went up in the mountains.
Yeah, for a few years.
And then he came back to Beaufort.
West Carter, East Carteret.
East Carter, I mean, yeah. He was East Carter then.
Yeah, he left
He
in
only coached,
'65.
did he coach about 3 or 4 or 5 years, and then he retired, I think.
He coached at West Carter, East Carteret for 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
4 or 5
Yeah.
years.
He had a couple of good teams. I remember we played him in the conference tournament over here. They beat the crap out of us. I blame the officials, but
One of
they
the
worked us over.
yeah, of course we did too when we played. But the thing that that I found over doing this research, it seems like to me that Beaufort, one of the things that Beaufort had going for them was the support from individuals in the community. I mean, people like McQuaid had, which is kind of unsung hero, I think, in a lot of cases, like Jimmy Fadre.
We had Fodder and the Hassels, and yeah.
Talking about a guy who Jimmy would open the doors in the morning and leave them open and close them at night so that boys could go there. He'd let them use. He
It was the same way with me at West. I had Jimmy Swan when I
right.
first went there, and then I had Rodney Kent,
Yeah,
so had some good help.
and then he had.
That's what it takes. You can't do it all yourself.
That's right. And I think McQuaid had Ray Hassel with a midget basketball teams and so forth, and he had help in baseball and other things as well.
Yeah, I didn't know Coach McQuaid very well until actually he had retired, and we played a lot of golf together.
Mm-hmm.
Played a whole lot of golf together. Got to know him a little bit better.
Did you know Jimmy Fadre?
Oh yeah, I know Jimmy real well.
Did you ever have a chance to play basketball against
I think
him?
we played against each other some in high school.
Yeah, in high school.
Yeah.
And did you ever get to play? I know he played like on this Fry Roofing Company basketball team in
We
'57,
probably,
'60.
I played some in that county league when I moved back here. But
But Sidney Manning, I know, played in. They played with the Mayola
yeah,
group in New Bern.
because I think he worked for Mayola.
Yeah, and he played with Mayola, and I think Wilson Davis was coaching the Fry Roofing basketball team. That was a pretty good basketball team back there then.
Yeah, going back to the high school days, when I was at Newport, we got the basketball players, and New Bern got the football players. Generally,
How
from
about that?
Havelock. That's when Havelock didn't have a high school.
Yeah.
So we had Jerry Diffie, and I don't even remember all. Coombs, I think that's how you pronounce his name.
Donnie Coombs.
Yeah. But we'd always get the basketball players.
Get the
And Sydney was one of them.
Yeah. What I guess some of the things in coaching and stuff. I mean, you were classified as a disciplinarian. How would you classify your coaching
Well,
style?
I mean, far as yelling and screaming, I would say no. But as far as I tell them what I expect, and then
That's what I mean.
that would be it.
You laid out what you wanted. And
One of my rules was you don't miss practice unless you're sick or you had a death in the family, and then I expect a phone call.
yeah, I
I
understand.
had a couple of them that broke the rule, unfortunately. So.
Well, I understood that you had one time was watching a game at East Carteret, and you let,
Palmer Lee, bless his heart. That's probably the best titles there. Well, one of the best. East Carter's had a couple.
who was he now? What was his name?
Palmer Lee.
Harmony, and he would watch a game, and he was one of your
He went
best
over.
players.
He went over to East Carter. We weren't playing. He went over to East Carter and watched them play, and missed practice. And I reckon he thought nobody would recognize him. I don't know, or maybe he didn't care. I don't know. Nice fella, but it's just one of those. As long as you had him with you, he wasn't going to do anything wrong. And probably wasn't doing anything wrong then. He just missed practice. But
Just missed practice. But did you had to cut him, or you set him on the bench, or
nah, I cut him.
cut him?
That was it.
Did you have any more trouble after that?
He never come back.
No, I mean, did you have any more trouble with people missing practice after?
Well, I had two of them that missed. One of the other boys missed along with him.
Oh,
That was a starting guard and a starting center.
how did you do that year without them?
Well, that was right at the end of the season,
Oh, right
best
in the
I can remember. I don't remember. I don't even know if we had another game. I know we went to the district tournament and won the first game. And then the second game, we still didn't get beat real bad. But if I'd have had those two boys, we wouldn't have lost that game either.
How about
That boy
well, that's
could
a
play.
shame they never
He had
realized.
hands, fingers, right, had to be that long. But he, I can't remember what happened. I can't remember whether it was his grades. Anyway, it was something came up that he didn't play the next year. I almost believe he wasn't eligible because of his grades.
Is there some things that you look back on? I mean, you say, man, I wish I had done it this way versus that way.
There's too many for me to try to remember.
Is there too many things? Is there some things that you had got
Well,
to?
I remember one case we were playing. This was one of my good teams. We were playing in a district tournament. One of my best players. I'd never seen him do it. He got the ball over there on the sideline and went behind his back and lost it. Of course, I had a sub. He was sitting right here or down there. I never did put him back in. That was probably a mistake because we might could have won that game if I'd have put him back in.
Put it back in.
But that's, you don't know, might got beat worse.
Yeah, you never know. You never
But I
know.
do remember that.
Would have, should have.
He was about 6'6" and he dribbles behind his back on the side.
It's like not to do. Work to your strengths.
Yeah.
Do you miss coaching?
Nah. I went to all the games when I first retired and everything, but I'd coached long enough. I mean, it was,
You know when to end.
yeah.
And
The,
stuff.
the
Well,
coaching wasn't bad. It was going to work at 7 o'clock in the morning or 7:30. Most of the time I was there by 7:30. Then during the season, even if I'm practicing, it was 9. You know, we always took the third
Yeah.
because most of our kids had a driver's license. They'd get back and forth from Mill Creek or Broad Creek or Salter Path, wherever they had to come from.
Mhm.
So you're looking at 9 or 9:30 by the time you get out of there. Then
Yeah.
on game nights, it's 11:30. And if you're on the road, it's 12 or 1. And just really the hours,
Just stretch.
it's just, so.
Yeah.
But I might would have missed it more, but I went to all the games. Even went to most of the road games for a while. I don't anymore, but I still try to go to most of the home games.
Who were some of the other teams you hate to play as when you were in Moorhead? I mean, you hated to go in and play that was always strong.
Well, the first few years I was here, we were really in a strong conference. We had New Bern, Kinston, Greenville, Tarboro, Roanoke Rapids, Elizabeth City, all city schools,
Big school.
everybody right together. And we're from Salter Path to Beaufort to Mill Creek and everywhere, you know, so you're kind of handicapped as far as the number of people you're going to get because they just can't get there.
Mm-hmm.
And probably of that group, Kinston was always the best.
Mhm.
So if you want to win, you don't particularly want to have to play them all the time.
You want to have them at homecoming.
But we had, you know, it was kind of funny. We had the big school. We played. Jimmy Parkins was coaching at Swansburg, which I knew. We always played Swansburg, and they were always competitive. We probably won the majority of the games, but we lost some to them too. But it was always competitive. Havelock, same way. Of course,
Who was coach at Havelock then?
well, actually, Jimmy Parkins went to Havelock.
Jimmy Parkins went over to Havelock.
Yeah, he went over to Havelock from Swansburg, so he was there a while. And I can't remember who was in between. Then David Garner, who graduated from West Carter his senior year from Newport, he coached over there. And David did a real good job for him. And
Do you remember where Jimmy Parkin went after?
he went to
Havelock?
Pinehurst.
Pinehurst. Okay.
He didn't coach basketball. He taught and coached golf.
At Pinehurst. And is that kind of where he ended up?
Well, he retired and moved back here, and he had brain tumors, and
Yeah.
finally that killed him. But he lived back here several years before he passed away.
He was my first coach.
Yeah, Jim
when
and I
was a freshman.
Jim and I were real close because with the basketball stuff, and then we played golf together. The story I tell on Jimmy, we'd try to get together every year, and I'd call down there, and he'd have some dates, and I'd have some dates. And the first date, we'd always work out pretty easy. And then he'd call me back later and give me well, let's play on this date here. And after a while, I got to looking. he would schedule me after we played East Carter. I said, sorry, rascal. Because he knew if we won or lost it against East Carter, we were going to be down when we went down there.
Oh, he was.
I said, well, he's a whole lot smarter than I am.
Well, he learned that, I think, from McQuaid, to think through the game.
Yeah.
Think through the game.
But over the years, of course, East Carter's always our toughest rivals. And of course, they had some mighty good teams along the way, too. And of course, Cecil and I were good friends. We played softball together, then we played the basketball stuff that we did. We did that together.
Yeah.
We'd go to coaching clinics together. So we were real close. But as far as wins and losses, we had some tough battles.
Did you ever know Fred Bartholomew? Of course, I think he finished coaching about the time you came back.
That name sounds familiar, but
he was the coach there after Jimmy Parkins left Smyrna in '61. He took over basketball and baseball.
At Smyrna.
But he coached at Smyrna through '64, and then he took the principal's job. In '65.
'64, that was the year I moved down.
Yeah, you moved back that year.
So
I didn't know if you ever met him.
I don't know him.
You know, one of the big honors I guess anybody can get coaching is the North Carolina Athletics Association Hall of Fame, and my understanding you've just been awarded that.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
Well, of course, I've known about the Hall of Fame, but I never thought much about it. I just figured they had a committee and they would look at stuff and they would pick who needs to go in, who needs to wait. One of my girls that was on my basketball team at Bailey, Andrea Kozart, she was sophomore my first year there, and then she played 3 years of the win streak. And she went into coaching up in the High Point, Western Salem area. I'm not sure exactly the school. She got inducted about 4 or 5 years ago. So I went up for her induction. Whoever was handling her committee stuff called me. And still didn't think much about it. And then a boy that used to coach some out here at West, Charlie Babb, one of his buddies got inducted. And he said afterwards, he went up there and said, of course I know Charlie Adams, he was at East Carolina when I was at Atlantic Christian, then kind of got into coaching and everything together. I went to East Carolina to graduate school, and he was in graduate school at the same time. So Charlie went up to him and said, Charlie, you know who's missing? And Adam said, no, who? He said, Billy Widgeon. Well, Charlie said, so you know, I hadn't even thought about him not being in. But you have to be nominated. So Babb nominated. And then when he got all the stuff together, of course Sylvia handled all of that, to get people to write letters and this, that, and the other. So the only thing I said, they must have wrote some good letters. So anyway, I saw Babb at Bojangles last fall, because they introduced you at a football game. That's the first step. And they were getting ready to introduce the '08 inductees. This is still in '07. And they had their names in the paper. Babb said, I looked at that list. They said, you weren't on the list. I said, well, I think that was last year's. I don't think that's the one that's coming up. He said, I don't know. Anyway, I left Bojangles. I don't know. I may have gone out to the golf course. When I got back home, Sylvia said, you've had a call from 2 Charlies. So I knew it was something about the Hall of Fame. Charlie Adams had called Charlie Babb, and he had called Sylvia. And I had gotten in. So I thought it was kind of funny when Babb said, you didn't get in. But what they do is they vote then, and this is actually the '09, because they'd already selected the '08. They were introduced at the football game, inducted the spring of '08. So we'll be introduced at the Carolina games this fall and be inducted spring of '09. So actually it's the class of '09 in the Hall of Fame.
Well, we want to congratulate you. I think that's just just a big honor, and I think it goes to the service. I think what a lot of people don't realize in coaching is that it's a lot. It's like being in the service. It's a service award.
Yeah.
You don't get remunerated, I think, from pay in terms of dollars for coaching, and certainly in teaching, you have to teach to make a living. And obviously that's not the highest premium in the world. know. So.
Yeah, I think a lot of folks, of course, now it's changed some. They do have some coaches out on the staff, basically, if they have to have somebody, you know. But back then, it was unheard of, really, to have anybody coaching that wasn't teaching.
Oh,
When
yeah.
I came along. Then when I got to West, we had a couple of years where we used somebody that wasn't on the staff, but it really never did work out very good.
Did you taught as well as coach?
Oh, yeah, yeah. Back one year, I taught 5 or 6 classes.
Well, I was, just as an example, I started coaching at East Carter, assistant baseball. I assisted in football, and I coached this Carter community basketball team when they first started. And I was making, I think, $500 for coaching.
Well, you're right on my level.
I was knocking it down, and we were only putting in, I think, about between teaching math and coaching, I was knocking down $6,200 plus $500 supplement.
Yeah, one year I coached JV football, varsity basketball, and golf, and was athletic director. I think I got $500 for doing an AD job and had to work all summer trying to raise money, selling football ads and stuff.
Holy man.
I did that for 10 years with the AD stuff, not the 3 sports. I did the football a couple of years.
So,
I finally told Mr. Nelson, I said, look, I believe I've done this AD job long enough. I need some summertime.
sir, I think so. I think when you get an award, I think it shows a lot of appreciation, and not only for your success, but I think for somebody who has spent 34 years in coaching is to be congratulated, and certainly mentoring probably hundreds of students.
Yeah.
Athletes, not counting students, but bringing them along and them understanding life, how life works.
Everybody, just about everybody on the West staff, I had in something. Mr. Lanahan played for me.
There were several others
Was
there.
the JV coach. I got a bad memory.
Yeah, there were several others. Rodney Kent, did he play for you any?
No, Rodney
Wasn't good
Rodney
enough.
coached.
He wasn't good enough.
Rodney had
back then.
already graduated.
Yeah, I know it, but I was going to say
Yeah.
Rodney wasn't good enough. was he?
Now we played the county league together. Yeah. I was trying to think of Mark Mansfield. And then John Lancaster played,
John Lancaster.
and Robert was #1 scorekeeper, announcer, manager, whatever you needed done, Robert could do. So,
Tell me about the men's league that you just mentioned. What was that team?
heck, I can't even remember. We had so many of those.
Who played with you? You mentioned Rodney.
Well, Rodney played, Cecil Lilly played, Chuck Lewis played, I played. Jimmy Swan played with us. After he graduated from West Carter, Roland Bell played with us. Rick Weirs played with us.
Was that a competitive league? It seemed like a pretty strong basketball league.
Knockdown, drag out leagues.
That was a fight, wasn't it? I mean, they'd do a little elbowing, wasn't they?
I'll tell you the Rodney Kemp story. I was played one of the guard positions. Cecil played the other one, Chuck, and Rodney played inside. And I can't remember. We had a real tall boy that didn't go to West or wasn't. He just worked down here, and so we picked him up. But he was about 6'7", 8 or 9, and he played inside. And I don't know. Then when we picked up Roland, Kemp moved outside. And after the first game, he come up and he said, "My goodness, no wonder you want to play out here. So all we got to do is run from the top of the circle to the top of the circle, and nobody's beating on you and banging you and knocking you down." He said, "This guard position, you got it made out here."
Got it made. All you got to do is pick and roll.
Yeah. You didn't want to get under that basket, they'd kill you. Because the officiating wasn't very good. So it was just survival of the fittest.
How was the organization at Moorhead in terms of supporting the sports program at West Carter? I mean, it seems like every community had key individuals that would make sure that you had the funding or raise the money, but it sounds like
It was always good. I mean, you didn't have anybody that's going out and knock on doors much for you, but as far as going to them, they were very supportive.
Yeah. Did you have a booster, for the lack of a better name, I mean, club that?
We started one, and I don't even remember what year we started it, but we started a booster club, and then we
The West Carteret. When did West Carteret start their Hall of Fame for West Carteret?
let's see. I don't have my notes.
For
I'm
approximately.
gonna say 6 or 8 years ago.
6 or 8 years
10,
ago?
maybe 10 years ago.
How many do they elect each year into that?
The first 3 or 4 or 5 years. Let's see. I was on the first one. I think they started out the first year with about 8. Maybe the first 3 or 4 years they did, 6 to 8,
Mm-hmm.
because they had to catch up on.
Each year they had to catch up on.
Catch up
Yeah.
on a few.
Yeah.
This year we've got 2 going in. Last year we had 3, I think. It's one of those situations here again that they have to be nominated.
Be nominated.
And of course, the ones you had back in 64, 5, 6, 7, 8, heck, they're up in age. Probably most of the people that saw them play are probably dead. Unless, I'm not talking about classmates, but
Yeah.
adults and stuff, people that would. So it's
Yeah.
kind of hard. I noticed they've been running an ad in the paper, but still, it's just kind of hard to,
Kind of hard to put it together.
get done.
Well, Billy, is there other things, other topics that you want to talk about that I might have overlooked on
I
asking
think
you
you
questions?
pretty well covered.
How many children do you have, Billy?
One
One,
junior, now grandchild, that's the third.
third. So you had a boy.
Boy.
Yeah.
Ben played basketball and golf
Oh, yeah.
at West.
At West.
Yes.
Where did he play in college?
He did. He went to state,
Went to state.
graduated from state.